After a 2-week business trip, I'm finally back here in my main office. I was in London, I was in Chicago, I was in Florida, and I met with dozens of people, and one of the main questions I received, particularly in our Chicago Super Trader Summit, where I gave a presentation, was how do you spot when a trend is reversing? Well, I just recently did a trade in the euro-dollar currency and also in an ETF that represents the euro-dollar, and I think it's a wonderful example of how we can spot these trends with good conviction. So let me show you how that works. So the most important thing to understand when we're looking for trend reversals or when we're finding one is that we don't really need to know how long that trend reverses for. There are some very subtle, actually maybe not so subtle signs that I find where it becomes pretty clear that something is reversing for at least some period of time. So the number one thing I look for is essentially exhaustion buying or exhaustion selling. But how do you find that? What we're looking at here in the chart is very simply the euro-dollar currency. And this, of course, this example will apply to stocks, indices, any asset class you want. But this is a trade that literally just closed it out yesterday for nice profit. So I want to show you guys how it works. So what we've seen here in euro-dollar is a very nice trend higher for basically most of 2017. But we started to get very, very exhausted. There were some other signs here aside from just the technical stuff. For example, European economic data was starting to slow a little bit in sort of month-over-month and year-over-year on a comparison rate of change terms. But if you look at just the charts, what you will find every single time when there's a major reversal at the beginning of it is first a mean reversion move. So let's have a look at this a little bit more closely. You can see here that the trend in euro-dollar became very overbought. We actually had this very visibly being displayed to us by these candles. You can see that candle number 1 here and candle number 2 here, where buyers really tried to rally the market higher, but failed to keep the market higher for both of those days, and it ultimately ended up following through and ultimately breaking the trend. But the most important thing that we're looking for these trend reversals is that you want to look for buyer exhaustion at the upper end of trends first, and then the first target is always the lower end of trend. You can never bet on a break of this trend until it actually happens. But let me show you a little more closely what I use. Over the years, I've developed what I call my beta reversal indicator, and it helps me to find these trend reversals. So basically what I'm showing you here is exactly these two candles, candle number 1 and candle number 2. And what the indicator does, it takes into consideration the candlestick formation, that's number 1, but also momentum and trend. So it's a bit of a secret ingredient, mix of ingredients, if you will, a bit of a potion, if you will. What happened here, you can see we got a sell signal here on the 30th of August, which was based on the overbought conditions over the previous day or two. Well, that sell signal ultimately is also what led us to the final sell signals here, which ended up then being confirmation of the break of trend. If you know that this sell signal, actually, even despite this rally, we never ended up going above the previous day's highs. That's this day right here on a daily closing basis, which is the most important thing. So this sell signal, even though we did have a counter rally afterwards, actually ended up being true. Final confirmation that we're going to go lower was right here. You can see we have another sell signal here, which confirmed the initial sell signal here, and then another one just a couple days later, and then we ultimately ended up breaking the trend. Now again, the question of course is how long does the trend have to end up breaking for? Is it really going to be a trend reversal? Where there's many ways in which you can sort of measure these price targets ultimately. That's not the point of this video. What I want to show you in this video is a step-by-step way in which you go for spotting these trend reversals. So for right now, keep this in mind. I'll make a video very soon to show you how we can measure what the downside target might be for once a trend like this starts to reverse.